Hi, guys. Good morning. This is Dr. Sheila Sapp of Sheila E Cares Educational Consulting and Services. And I hope you are doing well today. And today I have the distinct honor and pleasure to interview a former colleague, Mrs. Julie Klein. And I just want to say good morning, Mrs. Klein. And how are you? And would you introduce yourself to our audience?
Morning, Dr. Sapp. As you said, my name is Julie Klein. I have been a teacher for 25 years here in Camden County, all 25 years here. I love teaching in Camden County, and I'm also a volunteer puppy raiser for Southeastern Guide Dogs.
Wow. And I've never heard of that organization. And I'm just curious, can you tell us why you became a teacher? And I know that you love dogs. So, how did you combine your love for children and dogs?
Well, first of all, I got involved. I was doing a lot of research about bringing a dog into the classroom, and I was connected with Karen Chester at Camden Middle School, and she introduced me to Southeastern Guide Dogs. And I've always wanted to bring a dog into the classroom because research has shown how it impacts children in such a positive way. So, and I've always had a passion for dogs and a passion for teaching. This is something I've always wanted to do. So, I think it's a path that God put me on, and it's a dream I've always had. And, I just was able to connect with her and go to some meetings with her, and that's how we got started.
And okay, I also am curious as to you are training and raising puppies. Did you go to or go through any special training to help you with that process?
Um, First of all, when I connected with Karen Chester, I would go to meetings with her to kind of see what it was all about and what was
Mhm.
expected. And um, then, of course, the pandemic hit, and I received a phone call and started that way. And we received, as soon as you sign up, you receive a manual. There are oodles and oodles of videos that they have out there, and we go to meetings. So twice a month, we will all meet in a place with our puppies in our group, and we work on certain cues or commands, as most people will call it, and practice those. And we're taught kind of how to do those through the videos, through the manual, and through in-person meetings. So there's always help, and there's always someone there to help you walk through each of the cues and learning the commands and things like that. So
Interesting, interesting. And, I know just what it's like trying to raise children, yet alone puppies, and what you have to go through. So, why is this program so important to you personally?
well, first of all, I've always had a really deep connection with animals, and from probably from the time I was 5 years old, we had animals in the house, and um, I just know how they've helped me get through certain things in life as a child and even as an adult. And when I knew that I could kind of bring the two together into the classroom and how it would impact the kids, um, I knew I had to do that. I saw what it did for me. I saw the connection I had with other teachers and how important that was. And I knew that was important for me to have a connection with my students. But, bringing a dog into and having that connection, it was really important to me. And also to be able to give to others. This organization does a wide range of things where they're giving to others, whether it's, to a veteran dealing with PTSD, or someone who's lost their vision, or a family that's lost a service member, to emotional support, all sorts of things. So it was really important for me to get involved in something like that and be able to give back as well.
And I know this year you had your first experience with Shasta. And I just wanted to ask you, with him being in the classroom, were there any things that impacted your students that you noticed this past school year?
Oh, yes, definitely. This was, I really truly believe that God creates your path for you, and that he picked the perfect time for me to be able to do this, because coming into a school year where we were in the middle of a pandemic was so crucial to have that dog there, because she impacted these students in ways it's really hard to describe. We had students who, were going through incredible amounts of loss. There was one student that lost friends, that friends had moved away. Parents went through a divorce. There were deaths in the family, and he was beginning to kind of slip away. And by that, I mean, he was just kind of turning into himself and not talking to anyone, and very quiet. And I noticed his grades were slipping, and we pulled him out into the hallway one day and said, "Hey, how are things going? Everything all right? You just don't seem like yourself." And he immediately burst into tears. And I said, "Would you mind if I brought Shasta out to sit with you?" And he's like, "No, that's fine." And he just sat on the floor and just sobbed and sobbed. And as soon as Shasta came out, she just instinctively knew what to do with. And I have not trained her to do this. A lot of the dogs from Southeastern, I mean, they're just incredible dogs. But she just instinctively knew, I need to comfort him, and laid right in his lap, licked his face, and he started to laugh. And we just sat quietly while she kind of did her thing. And he, little by little, began to open up. Over time, we really saw a difference in this child. When he seemed anxious or had moments where he missed someone or something, I would just put Shasta near him and sit near him, and he would immediately begin to kind of relax. But it really made we're talking like complete 180 for this child. And we saw this with several students. Children with behavior problems would open up a little bit more. Even the teachers, faculty and staff would come in just for a moment to sit with her, or have a difficult day, and we'd bring her in, and she'd make us laugh, or help us to forget about the stress we were dealing with that day. So
When you mentioned about the pandemic and the little boy and what he was going through, it brought me back to how I was feeling when all of this hit. And I remember going outside after being in my house for 2 weeks and washing my hands and putting hand sanitizer on like crazy. And I went outside, and a squirrel caught my eye. And I followed that squirrel up the tree, and my eyes rested on the sky and the clouds. And I just began praising God. And it was like I knew that everything was going to be okay. And I just think it's remarkable how Shasta knew how to comfort that little boy. And I wanted to ask you, how old was he when he was placed with you?
Shasta was about, I believe, 12 weeks old when she came to me. The pandemic had just started, and Southeastern wanted to make sure that they had all the puppies out and, into a home where they could be trained. So she was about, I think, 12 to 14 weeks old at that time. So just a real little puppy.
Well, with her being that young, I have to ask you this question. Did you face any challenges or obstacles while raising and training Shasta? After all, she was a baby.
Yes. Anyone who tells you no, there are no challenges with puppies or with children are lying to you. Let's just put it that way. No, there were challenges all along with her. And I don't even like to call, well, I don't even know if I even like to call them challenges. They're just little hiccups along the way, I guess. When we first brought her home, she barked all night. It was, because at night we put them in their kennel. We crate train them. And she would just bark, 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 bark. And we had to kind of figure it out. And it was kind of like with our son when he was born, we had to figure out, okay, is this a cry because I need something, or is this I just want you to come in here. So we had to kind of figure that out with her. And I think within a week or two, we had it figured out. But, that was a different experience for us. It had been so long since we had had a puppy in the house. But just kind of getting to know her and her quirks and watching, because with kids will kind of talk to you and tell you certain things and show you certain things. But with dogs, you have to really watch their body language. So I had to really learn to watch her and listen in that way, to see what it is that she needed from me. Because that's what builds the trust in that bond with your dog. When you really can hone in on what it is they need and meet those needs for them, it really helps develop a stronger bond.
I'm just curious, with you having to watch her body language to tell exactly what she needed. Did you find that in dealing with the children in your classroom that you were a better or improved interpreter of their body language and what their needs were? Because sometimes children really, as that little boy you shared
Mm-hmm.
and telling us about, they don't really always express verbally what their
Mm-hmm.
needs are and how they're feeling.
Right. Yeah. I think I did. I think it made me more aware. It made me more aware of my own emotions and feelings too, because she would call attention to it. She knew when I was getting anxious and called attention to my anxiety. She would start to bark. And they can hear your heartbeat. So when my heart would begin to race, she would hear that and knew something was wrong. But with kids, I would notice and watch more. And we have a few children in our special ed pre-K class that are nonverbal. And I would bring her to them when they were eating lunch and introduce them. And there was one boy that would run off all the time. So we would bring Shasta in to sit with him. And, he was learning how to kind of communicate with us, but it was really a sweet
Mm.
moment to watch with him. And then some of the other kids would come in and they'd want to interact with Shasta. And then later on in the year, there was a boy that was deaf, but did not know how to sign or anything like that. They were kind of teaching him, and we would bring in Shasta and teach him certain signs and things like that and get him to talk. But it was interesting to see how you could get kids with no emotion whatsoever and no interest in anything. And then you'd bring her in and their whole body language would change, their facial expressions would change, and they'd want to interact. So it was really sweet.
That is, I mean, that is so amazing. And again, I'm sitting here thinking about my squirrels. I call them my grand squirrels, and I've even named them. I have Greedy, I have Chunky, and Miss Sassy. And as I mentioned earlier, they brought me through the pandemic. And now I feed them every day,
Mm-hmm.
and they're such a joy. And and as you said, they have their own personalities.
Right.
So that's really very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned earlier when Shasta was young that she barked a lot. Did you get any complaints from your neighbors about her barking?
No, we don't leave her outside. They're never,
Okay.
anytime that they're outside, they're always accompanied by us. So we don't leave them alone. And in the classroom, when she would bark, we had certain things that we could do. If she barked, I would put her in her crate in the classroom, so for like 5 to 10 seconds, so she knew that was not an acceptable behavior to have. There are things that we could do, or if I had any issues with her, all I had to do was text or call my area coordinator and ask, or anyone in my group, say, hey, I'm having issues with this. What should I do? And there were always suggestions and things that we could do to work it out. But she was just really a sweet natured puppy. So the only time she really barked is when she really wanted attention from us, or if she was bored or something, which I'm hoping wasn't too often.
I
I
was
kept
getting
her
ready
pretty
to say,
busy.
now, Mrs. Klein, I know you didn't bore Shasta.
I tried
And that,
not to.
that poor little dog was in timeout when she barked,
Yes. Just like our students. If you
just
keep
like the
talking, I'm going to put you in
students.
timeout.
Oh my goodness. So, and everyone, I would imagine, not only the students, but you said the whole staff really opened up their arms to Shasta. So, this has been your first experience, and I know that you had to say goodbye to Shasta. And it reminds me of, like any parent, when you have that child go off to school for the first time or go off to
Right.
college. How did you handle that, letting Shasta move on? And if you would tell us what the next steps are going to be for Shasta, I would really like to know.
Well, in the months before she was supposed to go in, you typically have the dogs or the puppies anywhere from 12 to 18 months. So you do develop that bond. And I would say probably 6 months or more before that, I saw a video called Freshman Orientation that was on the Southeastern Guide Dogs website on their Facebook page. I watched several videos from their tutorials and things, and it showed what it was like, what the facility looks like, and what they would go through. So, I don't even think I even finished the video. I just got so emotional because I
Mhm.
thought, oh, she's going to be scared. It's her first time away from me, and things like that. And it was really hard to sleep that night thinking about it. And I thought, this is just like what it's going to be for me to say goodbye to my son when he goes off to college. So, but I talked a lot with the group about what it was like. And I was told by my area coordinator, she said, I'm not going to lie. She said, it's going to be hard. So I kind of prepared myself that way. And I just kept reminding myself that God has this in his hands, and he knows where she's going to be, and it'll be okay no matter what. So really just putting my trust in him and knowing that it was going to be fine. So in the weeks and months before, I just keep telling myself that this was going to be okay. And that helped a lot. And we drove down to Palmetto, Florida, and early, because you have to set up your drop off time, and we had to fill out paperwork and things like that on her personality and things. They really want to make sure they know who this dog is and who best to put her with, because they partner them up, and sometimes they'll partner them up with a sibling from their litter, which was really kind of neat. And that was comforting
Okay.
to know. But so when I dropped her off, they take a picture of you, next to a sign that says freshman orientation, and then you get a picture with your puppy, and then it's time to say goodbye. And and before that, my son signed a little card for Shasta with a note to her from us, and it was a little bone. So as soon as she went into her kennel, she received that note and a bone. So I honestly thought that I wasn't going to be able to say goodbye, that I wasn't going to be able to let go, but I just felt so at peace, and I knew that she was in good hands. I mean, everyone at Southeastern Guide Dogs, it's just an incredible group of people. So they made us feel really welcome. And she went off to her kennel, and I walked around the facility for a little bit and just felt like, it was all going to be okay. I do miss her. I miss her terribly, but I felt okay letting go. So in the weeks and months to come, she's going to go through several tests. She'll go through a lot of medical tests. They're going to check to make sure that she's in good condition, good health. Um, and she'll go through a lot of training and conditioning and playing and having fun. So it's a lot like they're at college. She'll have her classes that she goes to, and then she has free time. So hopefully she won't party too much. But I know she's enjoying it, and I will get um, feedback every so often. I'll get an evaluation form every so often to see how she's doing with her cues and commands and things, and how she's settling in. And I believe I get an email or a letter from her telling me how things are going. So
That's
it's really, really
sweet. Oh,
sweet.
that's sweet.
Yeah. So that's kind of her plan as to what she decides. They believe it's completely up to the dog as to what they want to do and what they want to become. And there are so many different options besides being a guide dog for someone who's visually impaired, a service dog for a veteran. Sometimes it's, like I said, an emotional support dog. Sometimes it's a dog for their teen center. It could be, a therapy dog in a doctor's office or in a classroom. It just all depends on where they fit. So we've had dogs from Southeastern. One just became a COVID dog with 95% accuracy. She can tell whether or not someone has COVID. There are
Wow.
several dogs that became arson dogs for the local and fire departments in the area. So all of these dogs have a purpose. So
That's just simply amazing. And the fact that not only, and I know God has given all of us a purpose, but I just never associated that with his creation, animals, the creatures.
right.
And as you were talking, I was just curious when you said they said it's up to the dog
Mm-hmm.
of who they want to be. And I was just wondering, how do they know? How can they determine what the dog has chosen for their purpose? I just find that fascinating. Just thinking about that.
Yeah, it's really incredible. What I've learned, just being in this program this past year to 2 years, I just learned more and more about the organization, and they're just unbelievable. But their trainers are so gifted in what they do, and it's just amazing. But like I said earlier, if you learn to watch the dog's behavior and what they like and don't like, and what they're really good at. And kind of like with the COVID dog, one of the things that they found was that she was, I believe it was a female, was really good at sniffing things out. And that's what she really liked to do. So they really honed in on that skill and really worked on that. So they watch the dogs as they're training them, and they see, well, what are they best at? What are some things that they like to do? And if you really think about it, you know, they're not going to force a dog to become a guide dog or
Right.
an emotional support dog or whatever, when that's not what they want to do. Kind of like with a child, if you force them to do it, they're going to be very resistant to it, and they're not going to do what they're supposed to do. So they really try to look at their personalities and what they're like, and every dog is different, just like every child. Then that's why I think it's kind of funny how it parallels with children, that they're very much like children. And every child that comes in your classroom is different, different backgrounds, different personalities. And it's the same thing with the puppies. um, you know Shasta was just a ball of energy, and just into everything. And the puppy I have now, Shadow, he's just very mellow and laid back. And so they're all different. So
Okay. Did you give Shasta her name, or did they name, was the dog already named when you got her as a puppy?
This is real. This is one of the interesting things about Southeastern is this is really cool. When I got her in March, um, and you have time that you can decide. You spend a few weeks with the, like 2 weeks with the dog, and you can decide whether or not you want to train the dog or you'd like to pass the dog, because you want to make sure the dog fits in with your personality and your uh, kind of like with your lifestyle, I guess. And so we just called her Puppy. So all of the dogs, when they're born, they're called Puppy.
Okay.
When a raiser decides, yes, this is the puppy I want, I'll train this one, then they're given a name. So and the name comes from donors. Donors who, if you donate a certain amount, they you get to name the dog, and there's and you give background on that name and stuff. So it's really kind of cool how they do that. So with Shasta, and this again is where I think God had his hand in this. When I received her name, I had to kind of laugh, because when I say the name Shasta, I always feel like my Minnesota accent comes out. But Shasta was a drink that we, it was soda or
Yeah.
pop that we drank when we were kids, and I know it's still around. So I thought, really, this is the name you're going to give me? And when I received the certificate on the background of where the name came from, I just burst into tears, because we had a German Shepherd at the time that Shasta entered our home, and he was old, and we had just found out, I think like the day before we were supposed to get Shasta, that Max wasn't going to make it, that he had a degenerative disease that was similar to Lou Gehrig's disease, and there was only a matter of a time before his body would break down. And so we knew we had to say goodbye to him at some point. So with all that, and Shasta comes in, and she's, very comforting at that time, exactly what we needed. And then I read this where her name came from, and it was from a family whose first dog was a German Shepherd. And it was their
Wow.
beloved family dog. And I thought, yep, she's meant to be with us. This is the connection. They say, I've read before, that when one dog is about to pass on, they bring another dog to you. And I felt like, yep, this was Max doing his one last job of bringing this creature to us. So yeah,
Wow.
so it was, I'm like, yep, she's meant to be with us. We're keeping her. We love her. So, but that's kind of how their names are given. It's from donors.
Okay.
Shadow's name comes from it was actually a dog that was, he was with a soldier who had traveled to who was stationed in Afghanistan. I think he was a bomb sniffing dog, I believe. So, so he's named in honor of that dog.
Okay.
So
Is Shadow right there?
yes, he is.
Oh, he is.
Yep,
Do you mind putting him up so I can see him?
not at all.
And
Here, bud.
and while you're doing that, I'm just curious.
Whoop,
Oh, hi, Shadow.
here's my little bubby.
Hi, Shadow. Oh my goodness. Um, for people who are watching this interview, Mrs. Klein, what are some things that you would like them to learn or take away from your journey, your experience that you have shared with us today?
Well, first of all, that, if you have a dream of doing something, don't expect it to happen overnight, that it takes time and it takes research. And if it's something you really want to do, go for it. Teaching was always a dream, and having a dog and then having one in the classroom have always been dreams of mine. So, doing the research and finding what I needed to do was important to me. Second of all, these dogs are just incredible um, beings in this world that can do amazing things, whether it's a dog from a shelter or a dog from an organization like Southeastern. They're incredible beings that can bring so much to other people's lives, and especially during a time when um, our world has been turned upside down with a pandemic and just everything going on. I really think we need more animals, um, to show us the way and how we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to love each other, so we can learn incredible things from them. And they're life changing. Shasta changed my life in such a positive way, and uh, the organization itself has changed my life. And last, check out our website, check out guidedogs.org, and see what we're all about. You can actually go and visit the facility. They're starting to open it back up. You can take a tour and to see what it's like. It's an amazing facility in Florida. They're an amazing group of people. And you can check us out here in South Georgia as well, and come to our meetings and see what we're all about.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Do you have any upcoming events that you would like to share with the audience? And also, if they have any additional questions, or if they want more information about Southeastern Guide Dogs organization, if you would share that contact information, I
Sure.
would really appreciate it.
Sure. Every year they do a walkathon to raise money for the organization, and it's usually done in April, but we raise money year round. And sometimes we'll raise money by selling certain things, or you can make donations. If you go to guidedogs.org or guidedogswalkathon.org and look up Julie Klein, you can make a donation there. Like I said, if you go in there, you can find all sorts of things. I also just started an Instagram account to kind of keep track of my journey with Shadow and with more puppies to come. And if you want to check out some of the things with Shasta and with Shadow, you can go to my Instagram account, which is at my shadow, my hero. You can find out more there as well. And you can email me too at jaklein, Klein 31 at yahoo.com if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer. And if I don't know the answer, I will find it for you.
Well, Mrs. Klein, I have thoroughly enjoyed this time. And for those of you who are watching, I will post her information in the description when I upload this interview to my YouTube channel. And I am just amazed by what these dogs can do, and how the children and even adults respond to them. So I just again want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to learn more about your journey. And I know that those boys and girls at Crooked River Elementary School are going to be looking forward to having Shadow. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. We definitely enjoyed it.
all right. Bye, and you take care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Shadow.
Bye. Good boy.